Hi there, boys. You've just caught me reading about interest rate cuts that are potentially on their way from the Reserve Bank of Australia on the back of a weak Australian dollar. Um, while that seems odd that I'm reading it, it's actually relevant to the next syllabus point that we're looking at in, here we go, critical issues in business success or failure. And here we are with video 3 looking at trend analysis. Okay, guys. You need to be on page 420 for this. It's quite a short one, so if you chose this one, congratulations. You've just saved a bit of time. Um, so if you flick to page 420, um, it actually starts off with an example of a table from Austrac Logistics. So if you want to have a look at that, you can pause and have a look. But what do you notice about the business's net profit results? That's the question that the textbook asks. And if you even want to look over at the graph over on page 421, you'll see that the net profit results, they've gone up year on year, okay, or at least that's what they've projected to 2017. But what you might have noticed there is while it's going up, upon closer examination, it mentions that you'll actually detect that the rate of net profit growth is decreasing. So the net profit is actually increasing, but at a decreasing rate. And this is the type of trend that's important to track when you're an SME owner. Now, trend analysis can be used for forecasts on many factors, which we'll look at in a minute, but it's important to look at those external factors like the economy, like that article I was just looking at, that may actually influence any particular trends. And that's part of the monitoring and evaluating process, and as part of the taking corrective action process as well. So let's have a quick look. Firstly, trend analysis is the process, and it's the process of investigating changes over time and looking for a pattern or trend in order to predict the future. That's the first sentence on page 421. Okay, that's the process of it. The second point is that trends are best shown graphically, and that's through charts, graphs, whether it's a line or column graph. Okay, that's why there's those examples there in the textbook. I can give you another one. Here we have ABC Donuts that has 3 different types of donuts: jam, custard, and chocolate. And they have been inserting how much they've sold month on month, January through to March. Okay, and while that's all useful information, it's much easier to then compare how the different donuts are selling if we put those in graphs. Okay, and so if we put that in graphs, we can see quite clearly that whilst the chocolate one in January was well ahead of the others, the custard ones has actually had an increasing selling rate. Okay, and that's much easier to notice because of that graph. Whereas just looking at all those numbers, it can be a little bit hard to track with the eye. So whenever you're doing trend analysis, it's important to graph it. So what does trend analysis allow business owners to do? Well, it allows you to predict what mark you'll receive for future. Well, I was going to say that it allows businesses to be able to try and track what they'll achieve in the future. So if you want to think about how you guys would potentially track yourselves in assessment tasks, you'd look at past performance and potentially be able to pick that trend. That's why I take all those practice papers and give you a percentage and see how you're going to go compared to that in the actual assessment tasks. And often it's actually pretty much on the mark. So trend analysis, the areas to help to do it, to help forecast, well, it is for potential sales, total revenue, total operating costs, gross and net profits, and availability of labour. They're your 5 main issues where you need to forecast and try and pick the trends, okay? Sales is very, very important, and that would flow onto revenue as well. Costs, okay, there's going to be your fixed costs, but also your variable costs that you would need to try and forecast. Uh, Gross and net profits based on revenue versus costs, and then the availability of labor, okay? If you're an SME owner that has a lot of casual or part-time staff, that would be of particular importance. Lastly, and this is it, forecasting is needed to enable effective planning and therefore avoid poor performance. Okay, so if you're creating a business plan, forecasting needs to be done in order for your planning to be effective and avoid poor performance. And that's it for this little thing. No, oh, tricked you. Okay, so this is an example of where um, an organisation has not done its forecasts properly. So if you'd like to just have a read of that, and that's a case study example for you guys to look at how if you incorrectly forecast, you might end up in the slammer.